Good morning. Let's call the hearing to order. We now have a quorum. Ask Ralph Abraham to open us with a prayer. Ralph?
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this beautiful day you've given us. Let us use it wisely and not waste time. In these troubling times that we are now facing, please give us the knowledge and understanding that we need to go forward and make wise and correct decisions. And we ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Well, thank you, Ralph. Today we'll consider the Safe and Accurate Food Labeling Act of 2015. I'd like to first commend the sponsors, Representative Mike Pompeo of Kansas and G.K. Butterfield of North Carolina, for their hard work and leadership. I'd also like to thank Ranking Member Peterson, Subcommittee Chairman Davis, and Subcommittee Ranking Member Dalbini for their leadership as well. This legislation has evolved considerably from when it was first introduced in the last Congress. We have a version introduced in March, a discussion draft released last month by the Energy and Commerce Committee, and finally the version we'll consider today as an amendment in the nature of a substitute. This has been a truly bipartisan effort between the Ag Committee and the Energy and Commerce Committee. The cooperative spirit in which these discussions have taken place is rare but a welcome commodity. For some time now, this committee has been evaluating issues related to genetic engineering. We've heard repeatedly about the vast benefits of the technology. We've examined the regulatory process in place to ensure the safety of products derived from this technology. We've considered the barriers to interstate and foreign commerce with these products. And we've met with consumers and other interest groups to discuss their views related to agricultural biotechnology. We've learned many things from oversight, but chief among them is that some consumers are seeking more information about these technologies. More importantly, there is no reason why we shouldn't make efficient use of the resources of USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service to provide information about genetic engineering in much the same way we provide information about organic production methods. USDA's agricultural marketing system has long been in the business of assisting producers to develop programs and tools to take advantage of market opportunities. The Biotechnology, Horticulture, and Research Subcommittee recently examined the programs of the Agricultural Marketing Service. The subcommittee concluded that the agency has the resources and expertise to develop and administer a robust marketing program for those wishing to notify customers of the presence or absence of genetically engineered ingredients in their food products. What the agency doesn't have is the law to make it work uniformly across the country, like we did 25 years ago when we passed the Organic Food Production Act. As this committee has repeatedly observed, the keys to success in any marketing venture are voluntary participation, robust, transparent, and meaningful standards, and comprehensive enforcement to ensure compliance. The legislation before us hits all these marks. In developing this program, we likewise address the very real threat to interstate commerce posed by the impending implementation of a state law in Vermont. In testimony for this committee, multiple representatives of the food and agricultural sectors commented on the cost burden that would be placed on our food system if we were to allow 50 states, more than 3,000 counties, and nearly 20,000 towns and cities in the United States to establish their own laws regulating interstate commerce. I believe we all understand the importance of free and open commerce between the states. By creating a uniform national policy regarding biotech labeling, the legislation before us will allow consumers access to meaningful information, create market opportunities for those on the production and processing side, but most important of all, will facilitate future innovation in this sector. We all recognize that the overwhelming consensus within the science community is that these biotech products are safe. We likewise understand that each and every biotech product in the marketplace today has been reviewed through a voluntary food safety consultation process at the Food and Drug Administration. To provide consumers with an affirmation of food safety, this legislation would require technology providers to make use of this consultation process by making it an unlawful act to commercialize the product if they don't. As I stated at the onset, the amendment in the nature of a substitute we will consider is a product of a bipartisan cooperation. In crafting this substitute, we've received technical assistance from both USDA and FDA, and we've received input from a wide range of constituent groups, including both organic and conventional agriculture, food processors, distributors, scientists, and consumers. I'm pleased that later today I'll be adding my name as a co-sponsor and urge all of my colleagues to do likewise. I now yield the ranking member for any comments that he wishes to make. Colin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm pleased to be here and considering this important bill. In March, the committee held a hearing to review mandatory biotechnology laws. At that hearing, I expressed hope that we could find a workable solution that would alleviate the potential mess of 50 states with 50 different labeling schemes. H.R. 1599 addresses these concerns by establishing a voluntary nationwide labeling program. The bill gives USDA significant involvement, which, given their past successes with the organic program, simply makes sense. The organic industry, in fact, will have immediate access to the new labeling program. Consumers increasingly want to know more about where their food comes from and how it is produced. I think H.R. 1599 satisfies that demand while also recognizing that what we know about the safety of the foods that our farmers produce. I appreciate the Chair's efforts to make this a bipartisan bill, and also the work that we have done with the Energy and Commerce Committee to develop a good piece of legislation. I urge my colleagues to support the bill and yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Subcommittee Chairman, Mr. Davis, recognized for remarks that you might want to make.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, along with 27 members from this committee, sent a letter last month to Chairman Upton, Ranking Member Pallone, Chairman Pitts, and Ranking Member Green, thanking them for their support for national uniformity regarding labeling of agricultural products derived with or without the use of biotechnology. I would also like to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Ranking Member Peterson for their hard work on this important legislation. It is important to note that as with the introduced bill, the amendment in the nature of a substitute would fully maintain the authority of the Food and Drug Administration and the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service at the USDA to ensure the safety of the food supply and the protection of plant health. It would continue FDA's rigorous pre-market safety consultation process for developers of genetically engineered plants intended for food use. Further, it would add to USDA's biotechnology review process a requirement that the product developers share FDA's findings with USDA prior to commercialization. The amendment in the nature of a substitute would also address concerns raised by participants in the organic agriculture sector by ensuring uniformity between the national organic standards related to the use of biotechnology and other label statements claiming the absence of genetically engineered ingredients. Additionally, producers currently certified under the National Organic Program would be automatically certified under the Genetic Engineering Certification Program. Likewise, entities accredited to act as certifying agents under the National Organic Program would automatically be accredited under this new program. As we all know, establishing a non-genetically engineered certification program is a complicated process. We have heard from many groups with many issues ranging from definitions to the certification process. We are working to craft report language that will clarify these and other potential conflicts or concerns. In addition, we will continue working with stakeholders as the bill moves forward in order to ensure that outstanding issues are addressed. But as the chairman stated, this bill is about giving consumers in all 50 states the right to know about the presence or absence of genetic engineered ingredients in their food through a voluntary labeling system run by the USDA. We know that the National Organic Program has seen much success by both producers and consumers looking for foods that are grown through organic production methods. This bill mimics that structure and gives consumers the information they need to be more educated about the labels they read and food that they purchase. Most importantly, this bill creates one standard for products claiming to be non-genetically engineered or genetically engineered as opposed to multiple labels with different criteria. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment in the nature of the substitute, and I yield back.
Thank you, gentlemen. Note that we are in order and that a quorum is present and that each member has before them copies of the material in our agenda today at the rostrum. The bill H.R. 1599 is now before the committee for consideration, and without objection, a first reading of the bill will be waived and will be open for amendment at any point.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
When would be, I don't have an amendment, but I just want to be heard briefly on the bill. When would be the appropriate time?
Let us introduce the amendment next to the
Okay.
substitute, and then we'll have all the discussion at that point. Mr. Davis.
I have an amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 1599.
Without objection, will be considered as the original text for the purposes of the amendment. The text has already been distributed to each member, and it's in your folders. And now, do any members have remarks on the bill? Mr. McGovern.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to take a moment to express my very strong concerns with H.R. 1599. Look, I'm not here to argue the science of GMOs. To me, this is about transparency and Americans wanting to know what's in their food that they eat and how it's grown. You know, more than 90% of Americans want to know if their food contains GMOs, and they ought to be able to know that information. And I know that it's a radical idea, but why not give the American people what they want? And it doesn't matter if you think GMOs are terrific or whether you hate them. I think we all should be able to agree that the American people ought to get what they want, ought to know what's in their food. And quite frankly, it makes me nervous when I hear from some in the industry who keep pushing back so hard against labeling. It's like, what are they trying to hide? You know, 64 other countries have GMO labeling laws, and the sky hasn't fallen in on those countries. Food prices haven't increased. Consumers haven't stopped eating GMO foods. Consumers simply know what's in their food and how it's produced. Earlier this year, the World Health Organization, International Agency for Research on Cancer, classified glyphosate, the herbicide most commonly used on GMO crops, as a probable carcinogen. Probable, not possible, was their word. That ought to give us a little bit of pause, but look, we've had voluntary non-GMO labeling since 2001, and consumers are more confused than ever. And this bill doesn't clear up that confusion. In fact, it makes it worse by allowing food companies to continue to label GMO foods as natural, for example, which people think natural means no GMOs. I also find it ironic that so many of my Republican colleagues espouse states' rights, but the bill before us does the exact opposite. It preempts states from establishing their own labeling laws, and it would invalidate laws already passed in states like Vermont, Maine, and Connecticut. I understand we would like one uniform labeling standard, so I would suggest that we need mandatory GMO labeling to cut through all of the confusion. And just one final thought. What we're doing here today is the opposite of what the majority of our constituents are asking us to do. And passing this bill doesn't make this issue go away. States will continue to put pressure on us to do something more. Our constituents will continue to demand more transparency. And I think anybody who thinks we're putting this issue to rest with this bill is wrong. I think you're fooling yourself. We're just kicking the can down the road. And I know this is coming to the floor, and we will have a vigorous debate and a fight on this bill, but I think the way we're going here is the exact wrong way that we should be proceeding, and it certainly goes against what the majority of Americans would like. And with that, I yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back. Are there other members who wish to be heard on the bill? Mr. Gibson, for 5 minutes.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And I do want to begin by expressing my gratitude for the work that's been done on the bill. I think we've had experts really put an extensive amount of effort into this. I do oppose the bill. I support science, and I think we've made significant advancements that have reduced the amount of hunger and famine in the world. People want to know. I am hearing from my constituents, and they're concerned, they want to know, and I believe that we need to have the ability to do that. And look, states like Vermont have responded to that concern among constituents. I do agree that a national standard would be better than state standards, but that's not what's happening here. We're basically propounding a voluntary system, and we're preempting states that have decided to go with the mandatory disclosure. So I will vote for a national standard, but I can't vote for this. I do think the bill does some helpful things. I look at page 7 here on public disclosure, and as just an idea, I mean, one way that we can keep costs down and still provide ability to know is to use websites, to use the internet, where we could disclose this information, and then for those who want to know, the onus would be on them to go to the website, to look it up. And so there's some mention of this here, but again, it's voluntary. I think if we use that median, we can get disclosure, and the onus would be on individuals to go find that information, and the onus on producers and conveyors would be to have it available on a website. So I'm going to have to oppose this bill, but I'll end where I began and just appreciate the conversation that's going on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Other members want to be heard? Seeing none, are there any amendments to the bill? Any member have an amendment to the bill? All right, then the question is on the amendment of the gentleman from Illinois. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. Being the chair, the ayes have it. Mr. Peterson.
Chairman, I move that the amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 1599 be approved.
All right, the question is on the amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 1599. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. No. Being the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Mr. Peterson.
Chairman, I move that the bill H.R. 1599 as amended be reported favorably to the House with the recommendation that it do pass.
All right, the question is on the motion to favorably report H.R. 1599 as amended. All in favor signifying by saying aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. Being the chair, the ayes have it, and the ayes have it. Does any members give notice of an intent to file supplemental, minority, additional, or dissenting views on H.R. 1599?
I would like the ability to do that, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Please have those submitted to the council's office, room 1407, by noon on July the 16th, 2015. Without objection, the usual instructions are given to staff that consist of making such technical, clarifying, or conforming changes as are appropriate without changing the substance of the legislation. With that, the meeting is now adjourned. Thanks, everybody.